on the humanity and the Sabbath. Maybe 2 points or 2 questions. Then I give it to the floor to ask questions. Of course, you are placing two. You're arguing that these 2 approaches that we've heard about for arguing for the Sabbath, which is, you call them the, for using my own terms, the historical one, and one, the prophetic one, do not offer, at least in the ethical frame that you're trying to develop, they do not show the value of the Sabbath for human existence. And what I appreciate is maybe in the beginning how you. I suppose as a philosopher, that's what you do best. When you're arguing for the moral injunction, it's obvious for the other laws that we see that morality, but for the Sabbath it's not. And can you just explain that further to us?
Thanks a lot. Look, I think the Sabbath is located, at least in a particular context, in the 10 Commandments.
Okay.
And we tend to think that the 10 Commandments is God giving us a moral law. When you look into other moral laws, it's obvious that they are moral. It's obvious how they are regulating some moral evil. Okay. Thou shalt not kill. It's clear that a society where killing is not regulated is going to create chaos. Do not give false witness. If you're not going to a society that's not going to think it is wrong to lie, no contract at any modicum level is going to hold, and society is in jeopardy. But the fundamental question that is not obvious, what happens to society when you remove the Sabbath? So it's a question I'm grappling with here. Much of our theologians have not been able to tease out what is the significance of the Sabbath as a moral law. And the danger with this is that then the Sabbath can just become a custom of the Jews. And as a custom of the Jews, it stops being morality, it just becomes a cultural preference. Mm-hmm. So in this particular culture, I'm trying to elevate the conversation and say that the Sabbath is a moral injunction. And I argue why I say it's a moral injunction. Yeah. I don't know what I'm really getting.
No, continue. And sorry, maybe to disturb you for a moment there. You on pages, this is pages 204. I mean, you locate this within a certain technical sense, ethical technical sense of what you mean. And this is what I wanted to read, and how then you say, in this ethical thinking about the Sabbath, one is trying to see how its absence in the world makes all the moral difference, or how its presence makes all the moral difference to a human life.
Okay. So look, I work with I imagine the Sabbath within a particular existential frame.
Yeah.
And the existential frame, I think, is that, so God begins creation from nothing, and God ends creation at nothing.
Yeah.
The only place where there's something is during the 6 days.
Okay.
Before the 6 days, there's nothing. And after the 6 days, the 7th day is nothing. Not it? So materiality is sausage between nothingness. And in a very fundamental way, the Sabbath is a challenge for men to see beyond something. And beyond something is nothing. And where there's nothing, only God exists. So the Sabbath then, so when God invites man into the Sabbath,
yeah,
man is invited into nothing.
Okay.
Now, then it makes sense why you must not work. Because you're interrupting nothing. Because it is in that activity where you give up, you rest from everything. You give up the material that you can engage God. You can engage God. So I think then the Sabbath then has that moral significance that it removes man from animality.
Yeah, yeah.
It removes man from animality. It puts him into spirituality. And spirituality is imagined, very significant point. There is nothing natural that can represent something spiritual. That is why on the Sabbath God creates nothing, because nothing can represent him except nothingness.
Look. Continue. I give you the last one. Yeah, continue. Ifan. Look, that section when you say no thing, I think it's an awesome section, and people really need to go buy the book so that they can really read it, But it's like you also make the case of that because they were coming from slavery, God introduces the Sabbath as a means, say a technological means to rehumanize them, 1 minute on that. Maybe that, yeah.
So, without the Sabbath, you are unplugged from humanity. Without the Sabbath, now for me the Sabbath is important for a society. Without the Sabbath, you are unplugged from humanity. You are plugged to animality. That is why, before God can give them a law, law is for subjects, human beings. Because they're not subjects, God has to give them something that will prepare them to be human. That's why he gives them the Sabbath first, to engage in nothingness so that they can discover their humanity. Only in chapter 20, he gives them the law, because it's for human subjects. So he gives them two things. He gives them food, a special type of food. Psalm 78 says it was food for angels, to accelerate them into the human project. One. The second thing he gives them, attached to diet, is the Sabbath. On the Sabbath, they get nothing. So God is teaching them, that how to be human is to connect with nothing, so that you can build a spiritual society. So the biggest, and these are very political implications, many of the problems we face in the world is because we have removed nothing from people. That's why we're fighting about everything.
Thank you.